Studies show that over 60% of young adults report feeling seriously lonely on a regular basis. That's literally more than half of an entire generation. And we're talking about the most connected generation in human history, feeling more isolated than people who lived through the Great Depression. But here's what's really messed up. This isn't about single people or introverts. Some of the loneliest people are the ones with the most active social media accounts, the ones that are always at parties, the ones who seem to have it all figured out from the outside. I used to think loneliness was just about not having people around you, but I've learned it's actually about not feeling understood by the people who are around you. And that's where social media completely screwed us over. We have more ways to communicate than ever before, but we're communicating less meaningfully than ever before. We went from having deep conversations with a few close friends to having shallow interactions with hundreds of acquaintances. I think we all know this already, but social media obviously sold us a lie that connection equals communication. But scrolling through Instagram stories is obviously not the same as connecting with someone, and liking someone's post is not the same as being there for them when they're struggling. We've created this weird world where we know what everyone had for breakfast, but we don't know how anyone is actually doing emotionally. You can watch someone's entire life through their stories and still have no idea what's really going on with them. And the worst part is we're all performing happiness for each other. Everyone's posting their highlight reels while hiding their struggles. So not only are we not connecting authentically, we're actively making each other feel worse by comparison. I remember scrolling through social media when I was at the lowest point with my addiction and seeing everyone else living these perfect lives, going to these amazing places, achieving all these things, and it made me feel like I was the only one struggling, like I was falling behind while everyone else had their life figured out. But here's the thing. Half of those people posting those perfect moments were probably going through their own stuff too. We're all pretending to be fine while feeling alone, which makes everyone feel even more alone. It's a weird cycle where fake connection creates real isolation. But let's talk about why social media is so addictive but so unsatisfying. Every time you get a like, comment, DM, your brain gets that little hit of dopamine. It's the same chemical reward system that makes gambling addictive. And here's the problem, that dopamine hit is shallow and short-lived and it's not natural. It's like eating candy instead of a real meal. You're gonna get a quick sugar rush, but you're still hungry afterwards, so you need more and more to feel satisfied. Real human connection gives you deeper, longer-lasting satisfaction, and having an actual conversation with someone and sharing something meaningful, feeling truly understood, that hits different than getting 50 likes on a post. But because social media hit is instant and the real connection takes effort, we start choosing the easy dopamine over the meaningful connection. It's like we train our brains to prefer fast food over home-cooked meals. And just like fast food, social media leaves you feeling empty even when you're technically full. I've noticed this in my own life. I can spend 2 hours scrolling through TikTok, Instagram, interacting with hundreds of pieces of content and feel more disconnected afterwards than when I started. But I can have one real conversation with a friend for 20 minutes and feel energized for the rest of the day. It is a game changer. But it's scary how much this is changing our ability to connect in real life. We're losing the skills for deep conversation because we're so used to communicating in 280 characters or less. But when's the last time you had a conversation with someone where both of you put your phones away and actually paid full attention to each other? I'm talking about really listening and not just waiting for your turn to talk while mentally composing your next Instagram caption. We've just straight up lost the ability to be present with each other. Even when we're physically together, we're mentally somewhere else, checking notifications, thinking about what to post, comparing our experience to what we're seeing online. I remember a long time ago when I went to dinner with a friend, I realized we both spent more time looking at our phones than looking at each other. We were sitting 3 feet apart, but we were both engaged with people who weren't even there. How messed up is that? And it's not just about phones. We've gotten so used to constant stimulation that silence can feel uncomfortable. We fill every quiet moment with noise, music, podcasts, videos, anything to avoid being alone with our thoughts or present in the moment. But real connection is going to require presence. You can't truly connect with someone if you're not fully there. You cannot understand someone if you're not fully listening. You can't be vulnerable with someone if you're distracted by everything else. And the irony is that we're so afraid of missing out on what's happening online that we're missing out on what's actually happening right in front of us. We're choosing virtual experiences over real ones and then wondering why we feel empty. And I've talked about this on this channel plenty of times, but then there's a comparison trap, and social media has turned life into a competition where everyone else seems to be winning, and no one talks about you're comparing your behind the scenes to everyone else's highlight reel. You know all your struggles, your failures, your insecurities, your boring Tuesday afternoons, but you only see people's best moments. And it's like watching a movie trailer and thinking the whole movie is that exciting. Nobody posts about their anxiety, their money problems, their relationship issues, their existential crisis at 3 a.m. But everyone has those moments. And this constant comparison is just going to make us feel isolated because we think we're the only ones struggling. We think everyone else has their life figured out while we're still trying to figure out what we're having for dinner. I used to follow all these fitness influencers, successful entrepreneurs, people living these seemingly perfect lives, and it motivated me at first, but then it started making me feel like I was falling behind, like I wasn't doing enough, I wasn't achieving enough, I wasn't happy enough, and success without connection is meaningless. You can have everything you want and still feel empty if you don't have people around who truly know and understand you. Let's talk about friendship for a minute. How many people in your life actually know you? Not your Instagram persona, not your work personality, not the version of yourself you present to the world, but the real you, with all your fears, flaws, and weird thoughts. Most people can count their real friends on one hand. And I'm not talking about people you hang out with or people you text regularly. I'm talking about people you can call at 2 a.m. when you're having a breakdown. People who've seen you at your worst and still stick around. We've traded deep friendships for wide networks. We'd rather have 300 acquaintances and 3 close friends. But acquaintances can't fill the hole that deep friendship can fill. You can't feel vulnerable with acquaintances. You can't share your real struggles with people who only know the surface level self. And making deep friends as an adult is really hard. And it takes time, it takes vulnerability, it takes showing up consistently even when it's inconvenient. It's so much easier to just add someone on social media and call it a friendship. But surface level friendships leave you feeling lonely even when you're surrounded by people. You can be at a party with 50 people and still feel completely alone because nobody there actually knows you. I've had times in my life where I was constantly surrounded by people, but I felt completely isolated because none of those connections were deeper than just small talk and shared activities. I was performing a version of myself instead of actually being myself. And let's talk about how work culture makes loneliness even worse. We spend 40 hours a week with coworkers, but how many of them do you actually connect with as human beings? Most workplace relationships are transactional. You work together, maybe you make small talk, you don't really know each other. And with remote work becoming more common, even those shallow connections are disappearing. And I've worked jobs where I spent more time with my coworkers than my own family and my own people, but I still felt completely alone because those relationships never went beyond work topics. You can sit next to someone for 8 hours a day and still be strangers. And the competitive nature of work makes it harder to be vulnerable or authentic. Everyone's trying to look successful, put together, like they have everything under control. Nobody wants to admit when they're struggling or need help because they're afraid it'll hurt their career. So we end up spending majority of our working hours in an environment where we can't be our real selves, where connection is limited, where everyone's pretending to be fine. So it's no wonder we feel isolated. Plus, work stress makes it harder to maintain relationships outside of work. You come home exhausted, you don't have the energy for deep conversations or meaningful activities. You just want to zone out and scroll through your phone. I talked about this in one of my recent videos, but dating apps promise to make finding connection easier, and they've actually made it much worse. We have access to thousands of potential partners, but somehow it's harder than ever to find real connection. Dating apps gamify human connection. People become profiles to swipe through, like items in a catalog. You make split-second decisions based on a few photos and a short bio. It reduces complex human beings to marketable attributes. And because there are always more options, nobody wants to invest deeply in getting to know one person. Why work through challenges or incompatibilities when you can just swipe to the next person? We've created a culture where everyone's disposable, where people ghost each other instead of having difficult conversations, where depth is avoided in favor of keeping things light and fun. Even when people do connect on dating apps, they often struggle to transition from digital communication to real intimacy. You can text someone for weeks and still not really know them. You can have great online chemistry but terrible in-person connection. The pressure to present yourself perfectly on dating apps creates the same performative behavior as social media. Everyone's curating their most attractive self while hiding anything that might be seen as a flaw. How can you find someone who truly accepts you when you're not even showing them who you really are? But I think at the very core of the loneliness epidemic is our fear of vulnerability. We're afraid of showing people who we really are because we're afraid they'll reject us. So we present these polished versions of ourselves and then feel alone because nobody knows the real us. But vulnerability is the price of connection. You can't be truly known without being truly seen. And you can't be truly seen if you're always wearing a mask. The problem is that vulnerability feels dangerous in a world where everything is public and permanent. Saying something real online and it might be screenshot and shared. Open up to the wrong person and they might use your struggles against you. Be authentic and you might get judged or rejected. So a lot of us play it safe. We keep things surface level. We share our success but hide our failures. We show our highlight reels but keep our struggles private. And then we wonder why we feel so alone. I used to be terrified of letting people see my struggles with addiction. I thought if people knew the real me, they'd want nothing to do with me. So I performed this version of myself that I thought people would like better. But performing yourself is exhausting, and it doesn't actually get you the connection you want. It wasn't until I started being honest about my struggles that I found real connection. The people who rejected me for being real weren't the right people to begin with. And the people who accepted me despite my flaws, those became my closest relationships. But every time someone talks about loneliness, tech companies try to solve it with more technology, more dating apps, more social platforms, more ways to connect online, but technology is not the damn solution, it's part of the problem. Real connection requires physical presence, eye contact, body language, shared experiences. You cannot replicate that through a screen. You can supplement real relationships with technology, but you cannot replace them. The solution isn't finding better apps or platforms. The solution is remembering how to connect as human beings. It's learning to be present, to be vulnerable, to be patient with the slow process of getting to know someone. It means choosing depth. Instead of trying to maintain 500 online friendships, focus on building 5 real ones. Instead of texting 20 people, have deep conversations with 2. It means accepting that real connection takes time and effort. You cannot swipe your way to meaningful relationships. You cannot like your way to genuine friendship. You have to show up, be consistent, and do the hard work of actually getting to know people. And it means being okay with missing out on some online experiences so you can have more real life ones. Put the phone away during dinner. Have conversations without documenting them. Experience moments without thinking about how to share them. We need to relearn how to connect with each other. A lot of us have forgotten basic skills of human interaction because we're so used to communicating through screens. Start with eye contact. When someone's talking to you, look at them, not at your phone, not over their shoulder, at them. It sounds basic, but we've lost this fundamental skill. Learn to ask better questions. Instead of how's work, try what's been challenging you lately. Instead of how was your weekend, try what made you feel most alive this week. Give people permission to go deeper than small talk. Practice listening without preparing your response. Most of us listen just long enough to find our turn to talk. But real listening means being fully present with what someone is sharing, not thinking about what you're going to say next. And share something real about yourself. Break the cycle of surface level conversation by being willing to go first with vulnerability. You don't have to share your deepest trauma, but share something honest about how you're really doing. And just be consistent. Connection isn't built in single conversations. It's built through showing up repeatedly over time. Check in on people. Follow up on things they've shared. Be the kind friend you want to have. And one of our biggest obstacles to real connection is our need to be liked by everyone. We're so afraid of rejection that we water ourselves down until we're likable but not lovable. But here's the truth. You cannot be truly loved without risking being disliked. Authentic connection requires showing people who you really are, and not everyone is going to like who you really are, and that's okay. That's necessary. The people who don't like the real you weren't going to be real friends anyway. They were only interested in your mask, not your face, and wearing masks is exhausting. When I stopped trying to be likable and started to be real, I lost some relationships, but I deepened others. The relationships I lost were based on performance anyway. They weren't real connections. It takes courage to be disliked. It takes courage to be vulnerable, and it takes courage to show up as your authentic self in a world that rewards performance. But that courage is the price of real connection. You have to decide what's more important, being liked by many or being loved by few, being accepted for who you pretend to be or being known for who you actually are. So what can you actually do about this? How do you fight loneliness in a disconnected world? First, audit your relationships. Who in your life actually knows you? Who can you be real with? If that list is short, that's where you need to focus your energy. Second, choose quality over quantity. Stop trying to maintain hundreds of shallow connections. Pick a few people you want to go deeper with and invest in those relationships. Third, practice being present. When you're with someone, be with them. Put your phone away. Listen more than you talk. Ask follow-up questions. Show genuine interest in their inner world. And fourth, be vulnerable first. If you want deeper connections, you have to model the depth you want to see. Share something real. Ask for help. Admit when you're struggling. Give others permission to be human too. Fifth, create regular, consistent touch points with the people you care about. Not just texting, actual conversations, regular check-ins, shared activities. Relationships need maintenance. 6, join communities based on shared values or interests, not just convenience. Find people who care about what you care about. Volunteer for causes you believe in. Take classes, join clubs, show up to things repeatedly so you can build relationships over time. And finally, 7th, be patient. Real connection takes time. Don't expect instant intimacy. Be willing to invest in relationships that might not pay off immediately, but could become meaningful over time. And look, loneliness is not a personal failure. It's a cultural problem that requires intentional solutions. We live in a world that prioritizes efficiency over connection and performance over authenticity. But we can choose differently. We can choose to prioritize real relationships over online metrics. We can choose vulnerability over perfection. We can choose presence over distraction. It's not easy, and real connection requires courage, consistency, and the willingness to be rejected. But the alternative, living in a world full of people while feeling completely alone, is worse. You deserve to be known. You deserve to be understood. You deserve relationships where you can be your full, authentic self. But you have to be willing to do the work to create those relationships. Start today. Reach out to someone you care about and have a real conversation. Ask someone how they're actually doing and listen to their answer. Share something true about yourself. Take one small step towards real connection. The loneliness epidemic is real, but it's not inevitable. We created this problem and we can solve it, but it starts with each of us choosing connection over convenience, depth over performance, real relationships over digital ones. I want to hear from you. How has loneliness affected your life? What's helped you find real connection? Drop a comment and let's start a real conversation. If this resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Sometimes knowing you're not alone and feeling alone is the first step toward not being alone. Hit that subscribe button if you want more honest conversations about the stuff we all deal with, but don't always want to admit. I'll see y'all in the next one.